welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat Legion. Once and only I am by myself. I'm the host today, the lone host, stevezapf, the leader of the Legion of Lariat. Unfortunately, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright, had some personal things he needed to take care of. We do understand it completely. He will be back next week. Trust me, folks. I know I get kind of boring sometimes. But let's get down to it real quick. We're going to shout out our nonprofit organization, as always, Tap Cancer Out. Helps out with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descent, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund. Again, this is a huge organization. As always, the information for this, the links will be in our description. Whether you are watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you want to be, kind of like those credit card companies. Also, I'd like to give a shout out. This week, we've been calling it Ref Week. We have a couple of bonus episodes this week that have come out. One was with independent referee Lane Rosario. She did an awesome interview with us. It was so much fun to have her on, and I've been friends with her for a very long time. I'm glad that she came on. I want to throw that shout out. And we also got an interview. It will be coming out on July 25th officially. It was with ECW alumni, legendary referee Jim Molyneux. Jim Molyneux is not just a referee, but he's also has been a trainer, a head trainer at a couple different schools. He has connections to places like the Monster Factory. And of course, as I said earlier, he was one of the senior referees at ECW. He was involved with both the original ECW and the ECW reboot when WWE brought it around. We do get into all of that information. These are episodes that if you have been watching the show, they will be super interesting to you. Also, if you are trying to get into the wrestling business, these will also be interesting episodes for you to see how they have navigated their path a bit. But with that said, guys, let's get into some of the wrestling news around the world, as they say. Around the world. WWE signs Australian female wrestler Delta. I am not going to lie to you folks. I don't know much about this young lady, but this seems to be WWE's attempt to beef up their women's division even more so than it already is. They have a lot of top talent there already, and this just adds to it. Moving on from that, one of the big stories is Bobby Lashley. His contract seems to be coming to an end. He has been taken off of WWE's internal roster. That's a big deal. Bobby Lashley is a huge, huge star. A lot of people are talking about he might be going to AEW to reform the Hurt Business with, MVP and Shelton Benjamin. I think it could be cool. I think it could also turn into a flop. Again, it depends how they're presented. If they are presented like stars as they should be, this could be huge. It could revamp AEW or TNA or wherever they end up. I think they would do great work anywhere they end up. Honestly, with the amount that we've been hyping up TNA, him going back to TNA would be really, really cool. But again, anyone who has any information or has any thoughts on this, our emails, our social media, all that stuff will be in the description. Let us know about some stuff. If you don't like my opinions, again, today's opinions are completely my own. There is no one here to kind of rein me in a little bit. So if I go off on a rant, I'm going to apologize to you now. Last thing we've got on the wrestling world news is Rikishi recently took down, I forget if it was a clip or an episode of his podcast where he's kind of throwing some shade at the current Jey Uso storyline, where he's being thrown into the mix with the Rhea and Dom and Liv storyline. He doesn't like that. This is what they're doing with them. I get it. It's his son. At the same time, Jay, as much as we've said this a couple times, he's so very over, but I feel like his matches have been a little less than a little underwhelming, if you will. I think he is over with the people. I think he has it. I don't even know what it is with him right now, but man, is he on fire as far as getting the people on their feet and getting that going. So moving on from wrestling around the world to TNA wrestling. TNA had Slammiversary this week. A lot of matches on this card. There was 4 pre-show matches. Luckily, all 4 of those matches equaled out to less than 30 minutes if you add them all together. But on the pre-show, we have Tasha Steele. She defeated Fabi Apache, Giselle Shaw, and Zaya Brookside via pinfall. It was a little 4-way match. That was 6 minutes, 20 seconds. Kushida defeated Rich Swann by submission at 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Militia, the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions, defeated Spitfire at 8 minutes 45 seconds. And Eric Young, good old Eric Young, defeated Alex Hammerstone by pinfall at 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Going on to the main card, we get Broken Matt Hardy beating JDC, that's Johnny Dango Curtis, via pinfall at 4 minutes 40 seconds. It was a quick little opening match. We then move on to the ABC winning the tag team titles. This is huge. They beat the tag team champions that were the System, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. They got their tag team rematch and they capitalized on it. This was a 16 minutes and 50 second match. Honestly, it was a very good match. I love everything the System was doing. I also love ABC. I think Ace Austin and Chris Bay are an awesome, young, high-flying tag team. They remind me of teams like the Motor City Machine Guns, of the Hardys, of even the Rockers back in the day. They are doing a lot of really cool stuff, and they have a nice little edge to them, too, I like. We get Mike Santana defeating Jake Something by pinfall at 11 minutes and 40 seconds. And in an inter-promotional match, we get the Rascals, Trey Miguel, Wesley, and Zachary Wentz. They beat No Quarter Catch Crew, Charlie Dempsey, Miles Bourne, and Tavion Heights. This is huge. This just keeps building onto this TNA NXT relationship, and I am loving this relationship. Honestly, we are getting amazing matches between the type of talent of the Rascals and No Quarter Catch Crew. I love both those groups. Charlie Dempsey is William Regal's son. Miles Bourne has this amazing look about him and great athleticism. I love the fact that he is able to do as much as he does and be he is hard of hearing. And Tavion Heights, I know, is has a great amateur wrestling background. Now then, moving on from there, we get the banger of a match, a Montreal street fight, PCO beating AJ Francis, the former Top Dollar, for the TNA Digital Media Championship and the Canadian International Heavyweight Championship. This was big. I know they were building this up for a while, and I know that Steph DeLander did come out and have her time with PCO. We've been talking about this for a while. This Steph DeLander PCO thing has been going on for a minute. TNA honestly is putting on some really great product. This is just another one of those products that they've been doing. They managed to do a street fight the right way as well. And now, one of my favorites, Jordan Grace defeated Ash by Elegance by pinfall at 12 minutes and 10 seconds. I will say this. Though Jordan Grace won this match, this is the best version of Ash by Elegance I've ever seen. Whether you want to call her Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance, this was amazing. They put on a banger. If anyone is looking for a card to jump on the TNA bandwagon with Showtime and I, this is the card, honestly. You should be jumping on this. You get great matches on here. You have these awesome pre-show matches, which all of these are actually really, really good matches. But then you get stuff like Mike Santana versus Jake something. You have ABC and the tag team titles. You have the Rascals versus No Quarter Catch Crew. Jordan Grace versus Ash by Elegance. I know a Montreal Strike fight is not normally my cup of tea, but if this is your type of thing, honestly, it was a really good match. And moving on from there, we have the X Division title. We get Mustafa Ali versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And Mike Bailey defeated Mustafa Ali by submission. This is amazing. This was a 20-minute match. This was the banger that I thought it was going to be. I am not surprised that Mustafa lost this match. I know originally Showtime had said that he was too hot and too good as champion. I honestly think that this moves him away from the X Division title and more into the World Heavyweight title. In all honesty, I know he is a natural cruiserweight or a natural light heavyweight, whatever you want to call them, junior heavyweight. They have a ton of different names. But he has a big enough star where if he goes after the World Heavyweight title, I honestly wouldn't be mad about it. And now then, we move on to the main event of the night. The 6-way elimination match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. The participants are Moose, Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, Frankie Kazarian, Joe Hendry, and Nick Nemeth. Now then, I will give you the order of elimination. The first wrestler eliminated was Steve Macklin. He got hit by Moose with the lights out spear. Then, as predicted, very early on in the match, Joe Hendry eliminates Moose. I say very early. It was about 21 minutes into the match. But Moose is the second elimination in this match. And it's by Joe Hendry. This is huge for us. This is what we all thought was going to happen. And then they hit us with the swerve. And Joe Hendry is actually the next one eliminated. And Joe Hendry gets eliminated by Josh Alexander after Josh Alexander low blows him and hits him with the C4 spike. This is crazy. I think this is... I don't know where they're going with Joe Hendry's contract. I don't know if he's going to NXT full-time. This could be a very telling thing. I don't think that this is so much a screwing of Joe Hendry as they're trying to give him another high-profile feud outside of this match. Josh Alexander is actually the next one eliminated, and that's by Nick Nemeth with a super kick. And then the final elimination is by Nick Nemeth, your new World Heavyweight Champion, and he eliminates Frankie Kazarian, where he pins him after the Danger Zone, which is the zigzag, if any of you are wondering. Again, this was an awesome card, guys. Go back and watch this. We've been talking about TNA for quite a while. TNA, in my opinion, puts on the best wrestling product that you're going to find on television these days. They don't have the production that WWE has. They don't have the money that AEW has to pull as many stars. But if you're looking for a traditional, pure wrestling product, something that, again, I know Showtime and Scarps and I all talk about the wrestling we grew up with. This is that. This is a wrestling show, and I love it. I love the fact that they're doing all of this with them. Every time they do stuff, it's just, I think they're getting bigger and bigger. I think their relationship with the WWE is helping them immensely. I hope that they see something. I hope that they just keep getting bigger. And in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if you start hearing about them competing for the number 2 spot in America for the wrestling promotion more. But speaking of the current number 2 promotion, that would be AEW. AEW had their 250th episode of Dynamite this week, and they opened it up with a banger. Will Ospreay versus MJF. It was a banger. It was an awesome, awesome match. I will say this. I am on the fence with a lot of things. There are things in this match that I know I've heard other wrestling podcasters and other older school wrestling people speak of that I have adopted as well. I don't like the fact that that in this very regular match, that this match was not a no DQ, no count out. They were allowed to go into the crowd for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. They were out there for at least over 5 minutes, and with no counting. The ref followed them back there. My issue with this, I want everyone to understand, is not the fact that the ref did not count. If you want to set the precedent of let the boys fight, I'm okay with that. My issue is that later on in the show, later on in the match, I don't even want to say the show, but later on in the match, while they were on the outside, the ref then started counting. If you've set a precedent that you're not going to do something, then don't do it. It's a problem with maintaining rules and order. And every time they talk about this, I actually hold this a little less accountable on the refs. This is a little bit on the boys. The boys should not be putting the ref in this predicament where they need to where they need to figure out whether or not they need to make a call. It is, as a former professional wrestler, as someone who has come up through training, as someone who has been taught certain ways in an old school fashion, it is the wrestler's job to be able to break the rules without the ref being put into a position where he can't enforce the rules. That whether that be blind tags, whether that be something along the lines of sneaking a weapon in. Now then, I'm not mad about the end of this match. I am not mad that MJF won. The only thing that I have any type of issue with outside of the refereeing is I thought this match should have waited into Wembley. I thought this was too big of a match for them to. I realized that it was on the 250th edition of Dynamite. I get that might be a big deal and you're trying to pull Nielsen ratings and all of that jazz. I understand that. They were back up this week. With that said, this match should not have been given away for free. They are the 2 biggest stars in the company, and I'm a little shocked that we didn't get something where this match didn't happen that night. But it did happen that night. They put on a great performance. I have nothing but the utmost respect for both guys. MJF, once again, showing that he is way more of the wrestler than anyone really wants to give him credit for. A lot of people just want to talk about him like he's a personality. That guy can wrestle. And Will Ospreay just constantly impresses me. I'm hoping that we get to see this run back somehow. I do hope that this is not just turned into a 3-way between Ospreay, MJF, and Pac at Wembley, although I could see that happening. But MJF comes out winning the international title. I feel like they're really, really trying to build up this championship at this point to be the real number 2. I think this is going to be the number 2 title over what used to be the number 2 title, which is the TNT title. Again, I think this is also still a matter of the fact that I'm talking about this for a company that's only been around for 5 years. TNA has too many titles. Now then, we get a Mercedes Moné match. she goes over on Nyla Rose and she uses her own version of, I believe Britt Baker calls it the lockjaw, to win, which is a direct insult towards Britt Baker. Later on in the night, Mariah May comes out. She has an evolved Toni Storm look. She looks more like the old-timey, timeless Toni Storm, and cuts one hell of a promo about how she still loves her, how this was her favorite version of Toni Storm, the one where she's on her knees screaming for her. I like this viciousness that Mariah May is doing. I can't wait to see this match. I love the fact that she said she saw Wembley on the horizon and knew what she needed to do. She cut an awesome promo. I've been high on Mariah May for a few weeks now, probably a few months, and in all honesty, I think this is, once again, I think the two women's matches are going to be the best wrestling matches at Wembley. They might not always be, they might not steal the show in the sense that I think anything Will Ospreay is a part of ends up stealing the show, or you also now have Swerve versus Bryan Danielson. It's hard to take away from those two matches, but the Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker and now Mariah May versus Timeless Toni Storm, those are going to be amazing, amazing matches. To close out the show, we get a champion versus champion match between the AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland and Kazuchika Okada, the Continental Champion, which he's defended that title once since winning it. I don't even know if that's a real championship anymore. I know he carries it around. I think it's kind of ugly too, but it is what it is. It's a title. Again, these opinions are purely my own. There's no Showtime here to rein me in, so I apologize if I go off on some tangents here. This match was good. This match kind of ended how I thought it would be, with the Elite jumping Swerve to get ready for Blood and Guts, which I believe is this upcoming Dynamite. And it just sets up more of that. It sets up a little bit more of the Swerve Hangman feud, or not feud. It seems like they're just adamant on not having Swerve and Hangman get into it again, which they had a lengthy feud, so I don't completely see the need for them to jump back into it right away. So I do like this. Moving on from Dynamite, we get Collision. I know I don't review Rampage very often, but I do tend to skip it just because it's a taped show and very rarely do really big things happen on Rampage. So we are going to move on to Collision. Collision, we get Sky Blue getting injured in the opening match against Hikaru Shida. I watched this match, and Hikaru Shida came down on Sky Blue's knee hard. I feel a little bad about this. It seemed like Sky Blue was right about to get a big push. I don't know how bad her injury is. I know it was bad enough to stop the match. This just adds to a little bit of the injury bug that is going on right now. They've taken away all of like the spooky elements of Sky Blue that she had when she was with Julia Hart. But again, these are two young talents that are out right now. Julia Hart and Sky Blue are kind of what they're building their women's division to be. They're the future of this women's division right now. They're the ones that are going to be coming after the Mariah Mays and some of these other ones that are just starting to really hit their stride. And another injury just hurts this division badly. We get the debut of Hologram. I know a lot of people thought that his vignettes were going to be Ricochet. I don't know who this guy is. I've never seen his work. If he is just a luchador. Again, unfortunately, my knowledge of Mexican wrestling is not to the level that it should be. But Hologram debuted and won his debut match. And in the main event of Collision, we get the Patriarchy winning the Trios title. Luckily, they knocked it back down to only 3 titles, or only 3 belts, rather. They went over on the Bang Bang Gang, which consisted of the Gun Boys, Austin and Colton Gunn, and Juice Robinson. This was, again, this was such a convoluted story just in general, where the Patriot, with last week, where they stripped the Bang Bang Gang of the titles and then still made them, or they still made the match. This match could have happened without any of the stuff last week, other than the Patriarchy coming out and saying they wanted to take those titles. Luckily, there is no pay-per-view to review this week or preview, so we're kind of just talking about shows and how they're building. Currently, AEW, as we speak, is building towards Wembley. We're getting a lot of stuff getting built in to set up matches for Wembley Stadium, which is going to be AEW All in Wembley. That is going to be a big show. Let me just double check the date for that again. I believe it should be at the end of August. August 25th is going to be All in Wembley. That should be a big deal. And then I believe they are going 2 to 3 weeks later, and they'll be doing All Out, which is going to be Chicago. And then on the other side of the street, we have WWE, which is building towards SummerSlam. SummerSlam happens on August 3rd. That's going to be coming from Cleveland Brown Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. From the knowledge I have, they're already up in like the 45 or 50,000 range for tickets. Once again, a huge show. They're making all the main 4 shows, huge stadium shows. It's going to be awesome. But going on to WWE, we start off with SmackDown. SmackDown this week, Cody Rhodes opened the show, and A-Town Down Under came out to interrupt him. They had a little bit of an exchange. It ends up being a fight, and Terrence Crawford, the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, just happened to be sitting in the crowd, hands Cody a chair to even the odds, so to speak, against Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. This sets up the main event for the evening, which will be Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens versus A-Town Down Under. Also on this show, we get Nia Jax and Bayley. They have a sort of a face-to-face. It's a satellite interview between both of them, which was very weird because they were both in the building. They just wouldn't let them be in the same area during this segment, but then they let them be in the same area in a later site. It's a little bit confusing. And again, I think this is, I just feel like the Bayley build-up and even the Nia build-up for this match have been overshadowed a bit by other things. I think this could be a very good match. I think Nia has improved a lot. I still, her cadence and her tone of voice when she cuts a promo, though, I don't know. I don't get into it. It's not even that I don't like her. I don't want her on there sometimes, and I hate to say it like that. I know she works really hard, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm just bashing Nia to bash Nia. I'm not a big fan of what WWE has been doing with Bayley. I feel like this title run has been lackluster at best. They don't build it very much. You don't see much of it. It's been a lot of what they've been doing lately has been matchmaking and not storytelling. And I'd like to see a little bit more storytelling. I'd like to see a few more angles and a few more instances where where we get some real feuds. Even this Nia Jax Bayley thing, this is building to what's going to happen afterwards. Which again, we get a match a little later with Michin and Tiffany Stratton, which again, this seems to be the build. This is the build. It's more about Tiffany and the Money in the Bank briefcase than it is about Nia Jax and Bayley. And in all honesty, even them walking out, Nia Jax is the queen of the ring already. She already has she already has the women's title match at SummerSlam. And she walked out like she was Tiffany's sidekick. She walked out holding the Money in the Bank briefcase for her. She walked out way, way, way behind Tiffany so that she could be the center of the universe. This seems like the build is more towards Tiffany than it's ever going to be towards Nia. I'm going to stick to my theory that I think Tiffany cashes in before the end of the match of Nia Jax and Bayley, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if she sticks it to Nia and comes out of SummerSlam with the WWE Women's title. Big moment, we finally get the Logan Paul LA Knight contract signing. This was an awesome trash talking thing, and you can even see that Logan Paul goes a little off script with this, which causes LA Knight to kind of pivot, and a lot of people say he was flustered. I don't think he was flustered as much as he had gotten used to people not going off of script. LA Knight can go off script, whether you want to call him Eli Drake, LA Knight, Max Dupree, any of them. He is one of the best talkers in the business currently, and I think it took him a second to realize that Logan had kind of taken it upon himself to do this, so he was going to be allowed to do this, because they're not going to neither one of them are getting in trouble for doing it. And if you look, when he kind of does that pivot, all of a sudden he starts getting some really, really great stuff out. Not to say that LA Knight stuff isn't normally great. Yeah. But I love the fact that they were able to do this stuff the way they wanted to and get this contract out. We finally get them to get their hands on each other a little bit more. And now we officially have Logan Paul defending his United States title against LA Knight. I realize it's only the third time he's ever defended the United States Championship, but hopefully it is the last time, because I'd really like to see LA Knight get a title, a WWE Championship, around his waist, and I'd like to see this be a build-up to see if he can make that U.S. title important enough that he possibly gets a run towards that WWE Championship that I think he does rightfully deserve. The main event, we got Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes versus A-Town Down Under. It ends with Cody and Kevin going over, and then the Bloodline comes out. And initially, the Bloodline that we see is Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. I'm still trying to figure out why Solo wears the gloves. It doesn't hide the Samoan spike, so I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I get it. They're supposed to be more of like a Samoan mafia than the bloodline, the original Bloodline used to be. But at the same time, that just kind of confuses me a little bit. Outside of that, it looked like Owens and Cody were starting to get the better of them, and then out comes a werewolf. Jacob Fatu comes out and just decimates everybody, and they completely destroy Kevin Owens, which now this leaves Cody with no backup going into this match in SummerSlam, which is kind of exactly how it should be. I think if we're going to build Cody as this superhero that he wants to be, he needs to start climbing these impossible mountains. And obviously this is all leading towards Roman coming back. I think we know Roman is going to be back at SummerSlam. I could see a couple of people coming back at SummerSlam, honestly, and I'm excited about it. And a lot of them are involved in the Bloodline versus Bloodline storyline, so that should be awesome. But that was SmackDown this week, folks. I'm sorry I'm flying through this a little bit. Again, normally I get a little bit more back and forth banter between me and Showtime, and we get varying opinions on this. This week you get just me. Luckily, I'm not too flustered with what's going on, and I'm not going on too many tangents. But this is my side note where I get to tell you guys that I am going a little quicker than I would normally go. So moving on from SmackDown, we get Monday Night Raw. This was a really, really cool show. We get an opening of Priest and Gunther with a huge, huge brawl. This is there. I love the way that they're starting to build Priest versus Gunther. I really, really think Priest is going to retain at SummerSlam. I don't know how he's going to retain, but I think he's going to retain. In all honesty, I think this is going to be a thing that happens, and I'm kind of for it. I think that we need to really establish Damian Priest as a legitimate world champion. And I think that over the course of the last couple months since WrestleMania, they haven't done a good enough job. I think the first couple weeks or months of him, or the first couple weeks to a month of him being world champion, he did a really good job of cutting promos and things like that. And then I think they flip-flopped him so often that he just felt uncomfortable doing different promos and things like that. He looked like he was just ready to get off the mic. And he's finally starting to look more comfortable in what he's doing. I think he's going to do some awesome, awesome work with this. I honestly can't wait to see this match. I'm a big fan of Priest, obviously. I'm a big fan of Gunther. I can't wait to see what they do together. Now then, we get Braun Breaker beating Ilya Dragunov to earn a one-on-one IC title match, Intercontinental Championship match at SummerSlam. The way they ended this with Braun hitting the spear on Ilya on the outside and snapping his head back like that, I like that. I like that they are building Braun as this just scary, scary freak of nature that he is. He's this freak of nature that we don't see too often. Again, the Steiners were their own version of this, and I love that he's this evolution of both Rick and Scott, where he has the freaky athleticism and strength that his father and his uncle had, and this kind of live, this loose cannon live mic scariness that he gives out. But he's seen the blueprint on what his family's done, is what Rick and Scott have done. And then he also is changing it just enough where, well, I'm not them, I'm still me. Braun Breaker is going to, let me stop myself. Braun Breaker, barring any injury, is going to be a huge, huge star. He is the star that they are building for the future. There are certain things that he just needs to, I guess you could say, sand off the rough edges a little bit. But man, he's putting on good matches. He's cutting good promos. He's believable as far as a badass goes. He's 6'1", 6'2", 250. He's only 26 years old, or 27 years old now. So he is got a lot of years left in this wrestling business, and I'm for it. I can't wait to see where he goes. We get a lot more escalation on the Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, Jey Uso, Liv Morgan storyline on this week's Raw. There was a lot of Dominic kind of going against the grain with Rhea and trying to excuse me, find Jey Uso to beat him up. He ends up finding Liv Morgan, gets caught with Liv. Then Rhea calls out Liv with Dominic in the ring. Dominic apparently breaks Liv's heart again, I think this is all just more storytelling to see where we go at SummerSlam. I can't wait to see how Liv. I really think Liv is going to retain this title. Again, we will make our official picks next week, but this is starting to heat up a little bit in a good way. Again, it's weird. I'm starting to like. I've really been liking what Liv is doing currently. I know I wasn't. I felt like I wanted to like her in the beginning, and like now it's okay. I'm liking what she's doing in the storyline. I'm liking the mental games that she's playing. I feel like this whole Jey Uso Dom thing is setting up, especially since we at the end of this we get the end of the show we get Jey Uso and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day, the Tag Team Champions Judgment Day, and they go over. I think this sets up a lot more of Bloodline versus Bloodline, because I think this is going to lead to Dominic versus Jay at SummerSlam. I could see the Tag Team Champions coming out and jumping him, and Jimmy coming out to save him. And once again, that is another member of the original Bloodline to come out and make the save. The probably my favorite part of the show happens now. We get CM Punk comes out, lets the crowd know that he is medically cleared by his surgeon. He will be at SummerSlam, and then calls out Drew McIntyre. And Drew comes out and is inciting him. He is saying, I want you, I want to tear you apart, but I'm not doing it here. I'm not doing it in Green Bay, where this isn't a Green Bay match. This is a SummerSlam match. This is a big money match. Just pissing off CM Punk even more than he already was. And I loved it. And then we get Adam Pearce coming out and letting him know that they're not, if they touch each other before that match, they'll be suspended with no pay. They'll be fined, all of that stuff, especially since this is now canceling a huge match for SummerSlam. And he says, I've got a problem. I've got a huge problem. I've got a referee problem. And who comes out but the man who has been named as the special guest referee for CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, and that is Seth freaking Rollins. I like how they're doing this. I like that this is a way to get all three of the guys involved in this match without having this be a three-way match. I want each one of these guys to be able to resolve their issues with each other. I don't want this to be, a very quick one three-way match blow off between all three guys. I want Punk and Seth to resolve their issues. I want Drew and Punk to resolve their issues. I want Drew and Seth to resolve their issues. I can see this. I could see Drew and Punk possibly going from SummerSlam all the way through till maybe even Survivor Series. At least a few months. I could see this being, though this is the first big match that they're getting with each other, I could see this going for a little while to set up something where we do, again, barring injury, officially get CM Punk versus Seth Rollins at next year's Mania, because we were supposed to get it already. One way or another, we're getting that at one of the big four. We're not going to see Seth and Punk at, sake argument, Backlash. We might see a rematch of Backlash, but the first time they touch is going to be at a WrestleMania, a Royal Rumble, a SummerSlam, a Survivor Series. One of the big four. That is going to be how they get involved into it. And kind of the last thing I have for Raw is we get the new Alpha Academy, which is Chad Gable and the Creed brothers beating up the old Alpha Academy. As they're kind of beating on them, we see the lights dim. we see the Fireflies come out, and we see the majority of the Wyatt Six come out. We see Rowan, we see Dexter Loomis, we see Joe Gacy, and we see Nikki Cross all standing on the rampway. And the Creed brothers are waiting for them to come down. Chad is still in the ring. And we see Bo Dallas as Uncle Howdy get into the ring and hits Sister Abigail on Chad Gable. And that's kind of the end of that. Honestly, I'd like to see them get a little bit more action out of them. We got another Wyatt Six video this week. This one was with Nikki Cross. And she didn't really say anything in it. I've been saying this for a little while. I know we're going to see at least 2 to 3 more weeks of videos. I'm hoping that by the end of these videos, we maybe get like Alexa Bliss officially back in this group or something. I'd like to see them just either lay waste to everyone. They don't even. I know Showtime constantly says matches. I don't even need them to have matches, but I need them to have action. There's been a lot of storytelling without any action, aside from like that opening salvo and kind of the last 2 weeks. The majority of this faction has just been storytelling. It's been nothing but words and just scary, spooky stuff. And I'm not always in it for scary, spooky stuff. And I get that this is a little bit more of a psychological thing than a mystical thing. But in this case, I need to see a little bit more. I need action. That is really what I need. I need them to either lay waste to everybody or figure out where they're going with this. And I kind of want it. I know Triple H and the WWE are all about long-term storytelling. I need a little quicker storytelling on this one, is I think where I'm at. All around, I do like what they're doing. All around, I like what WWE is doing. Even AEW at this point, I like that they're trying to. I appreciate that they're currently trying to throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks. I respect that. I respect that you are willing to pivot and realize that what you might be doing isn't working. So that's why I'm trying to be a little nicer to AEW. I am visibly noticing that they are trying to pivot the direction on some of the stuff they're doing. I look forward to wrestling every week. I watch a ton of wrestling for this show, obviously. And guys, I'm loving doing this show. Please keep tuning in. Check us out on our varying social media stuff. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter, X, whichever version you want to call it. And then as far as if you like the show, honestly, please hit that follow button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit all the likes. Listen to the show all the way through. It sounds dumb, but especially some of these shorter shows like I'm doing today, they really, really help with our algorithm. And I can't tell you how appreciative that we all are of you, Legion. We are so happy that the amount of people that have come out are out for us. Again, I appreciate Lane Rosario, Kakoa, and Jim Olno for allowing us to be to interview them. Everything that we've done lately has been huge. Thank you for the other podcasts that do help us out. Guys, this is my closing statement. I just want to say thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for constantly coming out. I don't like to tell it to them in person, so I'm going to say it here. I appreciate Showtime and Scarps for helping out and co-hosting the show with me. So with that said, guys, thank you so much. Everyone, have a great day. Enjoy your week in wrestling. And remember, keep your chins tucked when you bump. Have a good one, guys.